Imagine a summer where the sun never truly woke up, a July where snow blanketed green fields in white, rivers freezing over in the heat of noon. This isn't a fairy tale, nor is it the apocalypse. It was the year 1816, known to history as the year without a summer. As the world plunged into a cold darkness, the strangest things began to happen. And tonight, we will count these fragments of memory together to guide you into a deep sleep. 50 strange facts about the year without a summer, 1816.
Welcome to Weird History of Sleep.
I am so glad you have chosen to be here tonight. Find your most comfortable position, loosen your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and let your eyelids grow heavy. Tonight, we travel back over 2 centuries. We won't analyze dry dates or data. Instead, we will count. Counting is an ancient therapy, like counting sheep, but instead of white wool, we will count strange historical truths drifting slowly through the river of time. Each number I count is a step taking you deeper into relaxation. Do not try to memorize, just listen to the sound of the words washing over you. If you fall asleep at fact number 10 or number 20, that is wonderful. That is our goal. Now, take a deep breath in, let it out, and let us begin the count. Number 1. It all began with a volcano named Tambora. In April 1815, in Indonesia, Mount Tambora awoke after thousands of years of slumber. It wasn't just an eruption, it was the largest volcanic explosion in recorded human history. It was so massive that the mountain blew away more than a third of its own height, vanishing into the sky, sending a cold warning to the globe. Number 2. The sound traveled 2,600 kilometers. Imagine the volume of that sound. If the explosion happened in London, it would be heard in Cairo. On that fateful morning, British soldiers in distant colonies thought they were hearing the cannon fire of an enemy attack. They rushed to prepare their weapons, but the only enemy that day was the fury of Mother Nature. Number 3. The sky went dark for 3 days. In a 600-kilometer radius around the mountain, the sun completely vanished. Artificial night covered everything. The ash was so thick you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. The world fell into absolute silence, save for the sound of ash falling like black snow on the rooftops. Number 4. The dry fog. After the blast, millions of tons of dust and sulfur gas were injected straight into the stratosphere. They formed a massive veil around the Earth. This veil did not dissipate. It hung there, reflecting sunlight back into space. The Earth began to cool, like a house where someone had extinguished the fire in the dead of winter. Number 5. The sun changed color. Because of the high-altitude dust, when people looked up in 1816, they didn't see a warm yellow sun. Instead, the sun appeared dim, pale, sometimes reddish-brown, sometimes a strange, eerie blue. That weak light signaled a dark year ahead. Number 6. Global temperatures dropped. Just a small change was enough to upend the world. The average global temperature dropped by about 0.4 to 0.7 degrees Celsius. It sounds small, but for the Earth's sensitive ecosystem, it was thermal shock, plunging the northern hemisphere into a mini ice age right in the middle of summer. Number 7. June snow in North America. Imagine being in New York in June. Flowers are blooming, birds are singing. But suddenly, an icy wind strikes. On June 6, 1816, snow began to fall. Not just a few flakes, but a blizzard. 6 inches of snow covered the streets, burying the crops that had just been planted. Number 8. The frozen birds. The cold came too fast. Flocks of birds that had just migrated north for the warm season were caught off guard. People found thousands of small birds falling from the sky, or frozen stiff on tree branches, like sad sculptures of that lost summer. Number 9. Ice on the lakes in July. Usually July is for swimming, but in 1816, in the northern U.S. and Canada, a thin layer of ice formed on the lakes in the early morning. People's breath turned to white mist, and hearths were kept burning during days that should have been the hottest of the year. Number 10. The name 1800 and froze to death. The year 1816 was so harsh that people renamed it. Instead of 1816, they called it, with a tone of sarcasm and fear, 1800 and froze to death, a name that reminded them of long nights shivering under thin blankets. Number 11. Total crop failure. Corn is a crop that needs the summer heat to ripen. But that year, the cornfields of America and Europe never matured. Black frost killed the young plants as soon as they sprouted. Farmers looked out at their fields and saw only a withered brown, signaling a hungry winter ahead. Number 12. The price of oats skyrocketed. With no food, prices began to climb. The price of a bushel of oats jumped from 12 cents to 92 cents in just weeks, a massive increase for the time. This meant people could no longer afford to feed their livestock, nor could they afford to feed themselves. Number 13. The disappearance of mackerel. The cold didn't just affect the land. Ocean temperatures shifted, disrupting fish migration. Fishermen in New England reported that mackerel, a staple food source, had completely vanished from familiar waters. The sea became as quiet and stingy as the land. Number 14. The Great Migration West. Desperate due to the barren soil in the east, thousands of families packed their belongings into wagons and began the journey west, to places like Ohio and Indiana, hoping to find a warmer climate. The year 1816 inadvertently pushed the expansion of the American frontier faster than ever before. Number 15. The Smith family leaves Vermont. Among those migrants was a poor family named Smith. Forced to leave their farm in Vermont due to constant crop failure, young Joseph Smith followed his parents to New York. It was in this new home that Joseph Smith would later found the Mormon religion. One could say, without the year without a summer, American religious history might have taken a very different path. Number 16. The worst famine of the 19th century in Europe. While America froze, Europe drowned in rain and hunger. Cold rains lasted for months, causing wheat to rot in the fields. This is considered the worst widespread famine in Europe of the 19th century, leaving deep scars in the memory of the old continent. Number 17. Bread made from straw and clay. When flour ran out, people in Switzerland and Germany had to invent desperate foods. They baked bread from ground straw, sawdust, and even mixed in white clay to fill their stomachs, meals that sat as heavy as lead in empty bellies. Number 18. The bread or blood riots. Hunger led to anger. In England and France, riots erupted. People took to the streets with banners reading "bread or blood." They attacked grain warehouses and hijacked supply convoys. In the gloom of the cold rain, civilized society began to crack. Number 19. State of emergency in Switzerland. Switzerland suffered the most, being landlocked deep in the continent. The government declared a national emergency. The slaughtering of horses for meat, something taboo or rare at the time, became common. Number 20. Lord Byron's gloomy summer vacation. Amidst this backdrop, the famous poet Lord Byron left England to vacation in Switzerland. He rented a villa by Lake Geneva with friends. He hoped for sunny days of sailing and poetry, but what he got was rain, thunder, and perpetual darkness. Number 21. Villa Diodati. That was the name of the villa where Byron and his group stayed. Because the weather was so terrible, they were trapped indoors for days. Outside the window, rain lashed against the glass. Thunder rolled over the Alps, creating a gloomy, isolated atmosphere, perfect for ghost stories. Number 22. The Ghost Story Contest. To kill time during those stormy nights, Lord Byron challenged his friends. Let us each write a ghost story. In a dark room lit only by flickering candlelight, the great minds of romantic literature began to let their imaginations wander into the darkest lands. Number 23. Mary Shelley's Nightmare. In that group was Mary Godwin, later Mary Shelley, a girl of only 18. That night, she tossed and turned. In a waking dream, she saw a pale student kneeling beside something, a human shape pieced together. And then the machine whirred, and the creature opened its watery yellow eyes. Number 24. The Birth of Frankenstein. From that nightmare in the stormy summer of 1816, Mary Shelley wrote the classic novel Frankenstein. The monster was not just a product of imagination. It was the spiritual child of the year without a summer, a creature born of cold, isolation, and a longing for warmth. Number 25. The Birth of the Modern Vampire. Also during that contest at Villa Diodati, Byron's physician, John Polidori, wrote a short story titled The Vampire. This was the first piece of literature to depict the vampire as an aristocratic, seductive figure, the precursor to Count Dracula. Thus, both Frankenstein and the modern vampire were born from the same cold summer. Number 26. The poem Darkness. Haunted by the sunless sky, Lord Byron wrote the poem Darkness. He wrote, I had a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space. The poem describes a desolate world where humans burn everything, even palaces and huts, just to find a little light. Number 27. The horses dying out. Due to the severe lack of oats, people could not feed their horses. Horses were the main mode of transport. Thousands were starved or slaughtered for food. Transportation stalled. The streets fell silent of the familiar clip-clop of hooves. Number 28. The invention of the bicycle's ancestor. Necessity is the mother of invention. In Germany, Baron Karl von Drais needed a way to move without a horse, since the horses were dying. He invented the Laufmaschine, running machine, a two-wheeled wooden vehicle that the rider straddled and pushed with their feet. This was the ancestor of the bicycle. The bike exists because the world ran out of food for horses. Number 29. The Yellow Skies of J.M.W. Turner. The famous British painter J.M.W. Turner was mesmerized by the sky of 1816. The high volcanic ash created strangely brilliant sunsets, with ghostly lemon yellows and fiery reds. His famous paintings from this period reflect the exact color of a sky polluted by Mount Tambora. Number 30. Suffering in China. Not just the West, the East also suffered. In Yunnan province, China, cold weather destroyed rice crops. Residents recorded that cold winds bit into the marrow, and they had to eat tree roots and white clay to survive. Number 31. Water buffalo dying en masse. Water buffalo, heat-tolerant animals of the tropics, could not withstand the abnormal cold. Thousands froze to death in the flooded fields of southern China, leaving farmers destitute without their drafting power. Number 32. The poem of Li Yuyang. Chinese poet Li Yuyang wrote of this suffering in Yuan Ti, the Gibbon's Howl. He described empty houses, roads filled with beggars, and snow falling in midsummer in places that had never seen snow before. Number 33. The cholera outbreak. The climate shift of 1816 disrupted the ecosystem of cholera bacteria in the Bay of Bengal, India. The bacteria mutated and became more virulent. This was the origin of the world's first major cholera pandemic, which later spread globally, claiming millions of lives in the decades that followed. Number 34. Brown snow in Italy. Because the atmosphere was full of volcanic ash, snow falling in parts of Italy had a reddish-brown or rusty color. People were terrified, believing it was an omen of blood, or a punishment from God raining down upon them. Number 35. Red snow in Hungary. Similarly, in Hungary, pink or red snow was recorded. These strange visual phenomena only heightened the apocalyptic fear in the minds of superstitious farmers. Number 36. The Bologna Prophecy. In Bologna, Italy, an astronomer predicted the world would end on July 18, 1816. This prediction, combined with the bizarre weather, caused mass panic. People rushed to confess, to pray, waiting for death. But the day passed with only the familiar cold rain. Number 37. Sunspots. 1816. Also coincided with a period of very weak solar activity, the Dalton minimum. People could actually see large black spots on the sun with the naked eye through the thick fog. This reinforced the belief that the sun was dying. Number 38. Benjamin Franklin's hypothesis. Decades earlier, in 1783, Benjamin Franklin had hypothesized that volcanic dust could cool the Earth. However, in 1816, no one remembered his warning. People only knew to shiver and pray, unaware the cause lay on a distant island across the ocean. Number 39. Typhus in Ireland. Along with famine came disease. In Ireland, due to poor sanitation and bodies weakened by hunger, typhus broke out fiercely. The sick lay in mud cottages, waiting for salvation or death to release them. Number 40. Icebergs drifting south. In the North Atlantic, polar ice melted and fractured abnormally, drifting to latitudes much lower than usual. Ships reported seeing massive mountains of ice floating in the fog, like white ghosts of the ocean. Number 41. Lack of fat and light. With livestock dead and crops failed, animal fat and vegetable oil were scarce. This meant candles and lamp oil became prohibitively expensive. The long nights of 1816 became even darker because people couldn't afford light. They went to sleep as soon as the sun set. Number 42. Changes in architecture. After 1816, in parts of New England, people began changing how they built homes. They connected the house directly to the barn so they could tend to animals in winter without stepping outside, and to share the warmth of the animals with the house. Number 43. The saving chestnuts. In some mountainous regions of Europe, when wheat and potatoes died, people discovered that wild chestnuts survived. Chestnuts became a life-saving food source for thousands, ground into flour to make substitute bread. Number 44. The collapse of land prices. Due to the mass migration and crop failure, farmland prices in the eastern U.S. plummeted. Many farms were abandoned, weeds overtaking places that once grew tall green corn. Number 45. Impact on the Compensation Act. In 1816, the U.S. Congress passed a law raising their own salaries. But due to the anger of a populace starving from crop failure, nearly 70% of congressmen lost their seats as the following election. This indirectly led to major political shifts later on. Number 46. Refractive index changes. The atmospheric dust was so thick that modern scientists believe it slightly altered the sky's refractive index for several years, making stars appear to twinkle more and the night sky look deeper. Number 47. The resilience of the oak. While most crops died, old oak trees stood firm against the frost. In the winter of 1816, it was noted that more pigs were released into forests to eat acorns, as it was the only feed left. Number 48. 3 years to recover. The atmosphere could not clean itself instantly. It took until 1819 for the dust of Tambora to fully settle. The earth spent 3 years sick before it could breathe fresh air and receive full sunlight again. Number 49. A lesson in fragility. The year without a summer taught humanity a humbling lesson, that our civilization, no matter how proud, is entirely dependent on the fragile stability of the climate. Just one volcano is enough to send the world back to the Dark Ages. Number 50. And then summer returned. Finally, no matter how long the night, dawn arrives. In 1817, crops began to grow green again. The sun warmed the earth once more. The nightmares receded into the past, existing only in history books and late-night tales, like the story tonight. We have walked through 50 steps in the memory of a year of eternal winter. Now, feel the warmth in your room. You are here, safe, warm, and at peace. The blizzards of 1816 have long since melted away. Frankenstein has returned to the pages of his book, Mount Tambora Sleeps. All that remains now is stillness. Let your mind drift away, like clouds of dust floating in the stratosphere, weightless and fading. Good night and warm dreams.